We had a big conversation at this conference we didn't expect, which is suicidal empathy, the West, this declining birth rate. I noticed you've been pretty active about it.
And open borders.
And open borders.
Which is like, let the invaders in.
Yeah, Tucker talked
could
about
all
it.
three of those be the same thing?
It seems like there's a number of symptoms of the West being suicidal. The most obvious one being the birth rate is not at replacement level. So obviously if that continues indefinitely, then the West will literally not reproduce enough to replace itself. But there's other things too. There's the fact that the borders were totally opened to the point where Western culture, the social fabric started to come apart. And you see this especially in Europe, where the indigenous cultures of the UK or France or Germany are starting to potentially be taken over by cultures of people who are brought in and aren't assimilating. You have crime, where we have this case on social media right now, this young woman, Irina, who's just killed in a senseless way on a subway, which is horrific enough in and of itself. But then in addition to that, the elite media just, for whatever reason, just refused to cover it like it didn't exist. So you have this issue of crime that's not being addressed or even acknowledged.
And no acknowledgement of this. It's almost like we're trying to deny the reality of the spiral and this, spiral.
So you have all these data points that seem to suggest that the West is suicidal or doesn't seem to want to defend itself or propagate itself. Look, I think everyone in this room thinks that life is awesome, right? I mean,
it's pretty great.
And I think
worth living.
And when Alex Karp was here earlier today defending the West, that got some of the loudest applause at the conference. So I guess we probably don't really understand what's going on. We don't really.
What's your take, Elon? Because
What's your take on the suicide of the West?
What's going on?
I'm very worried about it.
Yeah.
I'm very worried about it. I think there's let's just say that the actions of the West are indistinguishable from suicide. So it's, and look, at least in America, there's generally a sense of optimism. But when's the last time you talked to someone from Europe who lives in Europe who's optimistic?
Not for a while. Yeah. Decades.
Like even one? It's rare. So I think unless people have a sense of optimism and purpose about the future, suicide might be just what happens. Like having a child is an act of optimism about the future. So if you're not optimistic, So I think we need to maybe give people a sense of optimism and excitement about the future, and a belief that the future will be better than the past, and they'll be more interested in having kids.
Did religion play a role in the past, Elon, to kind of placate and make folks feel that way? When they
I think so. Nature abhors a vacuum, and if you take away religion, then I think you actually you get something in its place which is actually worse than what was there before. I mean, it's like destructive, basically. You get like the woke mind virus, filling the hole that religion used to have, taking the place of religion. You get these dystopian de facto religions that are very, very self-destructive. So I think perhaps some sort of revival of religion, or at least what we need is some coherent philosophy that people can get excited about. I mean, for me, it's a philosophy of curiosity. I'm curious about the nature of the universe, and I want to go out there, and I want humanity to be out there exploring the stars, maybe meeting alien civilizations. Maybe in some cases we see the ruins of a long dead alien civilization, but they were very strong for 10 million years. The kind of stuff that you see in Star Trek, in a non-dystopian sci-fi book or movie or show. And so I have a philosophy of curiosity of like, I just want to know what's going on, and in order to know what's going on, we must have an and increase in the scope and scale of consciousness, we must expand as consciousness. We must grow humanity, and we must extend humanity in order to comprehend to understand the universe, or even what questions we should ask about the answer that is the universe. Douglas Adams' book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, is actually a deep book on philosophy disguised as humor. And what the point he was trying to make in that book was that the questions are really the hard part. The answer is the universe. Like, the answer is everything you see around you. But what are the questions that we don't know to ask? Yeah. Now, some of the questions, I guess, I do know. I'd like to know, is the standard model of physics correct about the origins of the universe? Are we actually 13.8 billion years old? How does the universe end? Does it end in a heat death or in some other way?
Are
where
we in a black hole?
We might be.
Right.
Elon, can you talk about
Is the whole sort of simulation question? Are we a simulation? Maybe. I don't know.
Where do you think we find the answer first? In AI or in the stars? Because you're pursuing both, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know if I hope more people can get behind a philosophy of curiosity.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very exciting.
Yeah.
And inherently optimistic. Because there's this amazing sense of wonder about the nature of the universe. Yeah. And when you uncover some secrets of the universe, that's amazing. And you're like, a whole world of understanding has opened up. I mean, we used to not even know where all the continents were. It used to be like, just the map would be, there be dragons. And like, all we know is that when they sailed in that direction, they didn't come back.
I mean, the moon base...
that's all they knew.
I kind of feel like the moon base, or just going to the moon for real this time, would be a big step in the right direction. You still have the moon planned? What's the status of that? Is that still on the agenda?
Yeah, I think we want to try to reach new heights as a civilization.
Yeah.
So I think that it's fine to go to the moon, but we should go to the moon in order to establish a lunar base, like a lunar research base.
Yeah.
I mean, there are parts of the moon that are perhaps older than parts of Earth, and we might understand more about the nature of the universe if we had a science base on the moon. Yeah. That would be very cool. And then we obviously want to go beyond the moon to Mars, and build a self-sustaining city on Mars. I do think that that there is a fork in the road of human destiny where if we can establish a self-sustaining city on Mars, with the key test being, if the resupply ships from Earth stop coming for any reason, does Mars continue to prosper, or does it die out? At the point at which Mars is able to prosper and grow on its own, the probable lifespan of consciousness is dramatically greater, because we are no longer dependent on everything going right on Earth. There's always some possibility of self-annihilation on Earth with the World War III, or a super virus, or a meteor like that destroyed the dinosaurs. We know from the fossil record that there've been many mass extinction events. So the question that I sort of am always wondering about is, will the civilizational arc continue to ascend such that we can make Mars self-sustaining before the civilizational arc descends? Because the window of opportunity to make life multiplanetary exists now for the first time in the 4.5 billion year history of Earth.
Yeah. Elon, let's assume that we get there and you're there. You'd be the elder statesman. You'd have the moral authority of Mars. How do you run Mars?
There's this point that I think I want to just emphasize again, that it's more important than the form of governance on Mars or who's there in the early days. What really matters is that Mars is self-sustaining, that we are truly a multi-planet species, and such that we've achieved planetary redundancy. So that if something, and obviously we should do everything possible to make sure life on Earth is great, but there's always some risk of an annihilation event on Earth. Yeah. Like I said, self-annihilation or some natural disaster. And so the probable lifespan of consciousness increases dramatically as soon as we are a multi-planet species, with the key test being, can Mars survive if the resupply ships stop coming? So getting, like, the first missions to Mars are not that important. What matters is, can you get sufficient tonnage to Mars such that Mars can prosper on its own? And that means it has to have all of the ingredients of civilization. It's not just that you need to build, for example, a chip factory on Mars or chip fab on Mars, but you need the ability to build chip fabs.
Do you have a sense of the time scale? Like, let's assume Starship is at a state starting in 2026, then there's going to be a bunch of testing, obviously. There's going to be a bunch of early testing. We only have certain launch windows, so there's a bunch of time constraints. Is this a 50-year thing in your mind? Is it a 150-year thing? Is it something that is for our generation, or is it our children's generation? Where do you see that point if it's optimally possible? If things go and break our way.
I think it can be done in 30 years.
Wow.
So if provided there's an exponential increase in the tonnage to Mars with each successive Mars transfer window, which is every 2 years. So every 2 years the planets align and you can transfer to Mars. So I think in roughly 15, but maybe as few as 10, but 10 to 15-ish Mars transfer windows, if you're seeing exponential increases in the tonnage to Mars with each Mars transfer window, then it should be possible to make Mars self-sustaining in about, call it roughly 25 years.
Amazing.
That's incredible.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Elon Musk.